Hello, everyone. My name is Sepúlveda, and today I'm going to present our recent study on climate change and human disturbance during the Holocene in northwestern Patagonia. Several studies have recognized Patagonia as a key region for understanding Holocene climate variability in the southern hemisphere mid-latitude. This is mainly because Patagonia is the only large continental landmass that fully intercepts the southern westerly winds, which show a strong positive correlation with wind speed and precipitations. The westerlies play a crucial role in Patagonian climate, being responsible for nearly all the precipitation in this area. Therefore, several paleoclimate studies have investigated hydrological balance change linked to the shift in the westerlies. But despite this effort, the long-term behavior of these winds during the Holocene remains uncertain. Among these studies, many focus on vegetation-based proxy, such as tree rings, pollen, and charcoal. Additionally, marine sediments analysis, including iron and alkaline variation. These studies have revealed sentinel-scale climate fluctuation over the past 6,000 years, alternating between warm-dry and cold-wet intervals. However, there are discrepancies in the structure and timing of these changes, especially over the last 300 years. Historically, Patagonia was considered a pristine environment until the Chilean colonization in the last few centuries. This process brought deforestation, land use change, and exotic species which altered vegetation based on climate signals, making it harder to reconstruct recent environmental changes. For this reason, using alternative proxies like diatoms is highly valuable. Diatoms are excellent environmental proxies. These microscopic algae are abundant in nearly all aquatic systems and dominate like ecosystem as autotrophic organisms. They have simple life cycles, well-known ecological preference, and silica shell that resist erosion, preserving well in sediments and allowing species level identification. The goal of this study was to develop a stratigraphic record of variation in diatom assemblages obtained from sediment cores from Lago Pichilaguna to analyze the response of diatom assemblages to environmental and anthropogenic change during the Holocene and to reconstruct the evolution of the climate in northwest Patagonia. We extracted like sediment core from the Los Lagos region, known for its temperate and humid climate and the strong influence of the westerlies. Lago Pichilaguna is small, shallow, and located west of the larger Lake Yanquihue. Pichilaguna highlighted because it has a closest basin and relies primarily on rainfall as a water source. The methodology began with the bathymetric and geomorphological analysis that revealed that the lake was about 50 meters deeper in the past, 5 meters deeper in the past. Sediment cores were collected from the deepest part of the lake using a UV-Tech platform with a total recovery of 450 centimeters. We dated 17 samples via radiocarbon and also analyzed total carbon and elemental composition, ECRF. Diatom samples were processed with over 400 bulbs counted per sample, and then we developed a statistical method, include cluster analysis, principal components, and rate of change analysis. Our findings were published in 2 papers, one focused on the last millennium and another on the Holocene. This presentation highlights the Holocene data and the climate inference derived from diatom analysis. Radiocarbon dating, calibrate using the SageCal20 curve, show a continuous sedimentation from 12.6 kiloyears to the present, with an average resolution of about 60 years between samples. The main results are summarized in this graph. We identified 167 diatom taxa across 46 genera. However, we focused on the 12 most abundant species. Based on functional traits, diatom were categorized in planktonic, free-floating diatoms, epiphytic, attached to plants or surface, and phytoplanktonic, capable of both lifestyles. These groups correlate with different environmental conditions, which I will specify in the following slide. The most relevant species for paleoclimate interpretation include Cyclotella distingenda, the dominant from 12.6 to 11.5 kiloyears and associated with temperate oligotrophic waters between 11.5 to 5.7 kiloyears. These Costella stelifera and large Aulecosaira species increase. Large Aulecosaira include Aulecosaira granulata and Aulecosaira ambigua. This species suggest warmer and nutrient-rich conditions, possibly driven by a stronger summer mixing and lower lake levels. Also, over the last 200 years, another warm and dry phase was inferred, with the reappearance of this Costella stelifera and a large Aulecosaira species, consist with reduced lake levels and low precipitation. In the uppermost 100 centimeters that represent the last millennium, we observe the emergence for the first time of Tabellaria flaculosa, and likely exotic species for Piscilaguna, linked for the recent human activities. I inferred that during this warmer period, the influence of the westerly decreased, leading to reduced precipitation and consequent drop in the lake levels. These conditions were favorable for planktonic and phytoplanktonic diatoms, which prefer warmer and nutrient-rich waters. In contrast, periphytic diatoms, which typically inhabit shallow areas associated with littoral macrophytes, were less favored during this time. The lower lake levels limited the habitat available for macrophytes, while the reduced wind activity likely hindered the transport of periphytic diatoms from the shoreline to the center of the lake. In summary, I infer that this period experienced decreased westerly wind influence, reduced precipitation, and lower lake levels, all of which align with a warmer and drier climate. Then, between 5.7 and 0.2 kiloyears, the dominance of cold-tolerant periphytic taxa, stauroceroid and small graphite diatoms, suggests weather, cooler conditions, and higher lake levels. Also, during this wet and cool period, interestingly, this Costella stelifera also increased around 5.2 to 4.2 kiloyears, potentially reflecting brief warm intervals or environmental disturbance. To summarize, the mid to late Holocene interval experienced stronger westerly wind influence, more precipitation, and deeper lake levels. These conditions supported macrophyte growth and enhanced transport of periphytic diatoms into the lake center. In conclusion, the change in diatom record allows us to infer three major phases. First, from 12.6 to 11.5 kiloyears, a temperate climate with low lake levels and moderate westerly influence. Second, from 11.5 to 5.7 kiloyears, a warm dry phase with weakened winds. And from 5.7 kiloyears onward, colder weather conditions with higher lake levels. Finally, the last 200 years showed the most intense warming and drying climate condition, plus a major change in diatom assemblages, which coincide with increasing anthropogenic activities in the 18th century. Thank you for your attention.